Temperate grasslands, otherwise known as prairies, are usually located in North America. On average, most of the rain falls between late spring and early summer, and they usually get about 20 to 35 inches of rain per year. They are very susceptible to droughts. The amount of rainfall determines the length of the grasses. Tall grass prairies are in wet areas, and shorter grass prairies are in drier areas. Grasslands receive less rain than forests, but more than deserts. Tall grass prairies in the Midwestern United States receive an average of 75 to 90 centimeters of rainfall per year. Due to the large amount of rain, prairies contain grasses that grow around 10 feet high. Temperate sunlight and radiation. Prairies usually have long, hot days in the summer and short, cold days in the winter. During the spring, they usually get 12 hours of sun, in the summer 14, in the fall 10.5, and in the winter 10 hours of sunlight. Prairies usually are located 30 to 55 degrees latitude north and south of the equator, or mid-latitude. There is limited food, and animals adapt to eat plants in prairies. Organisms must adapt to extreme heat and cold hardy. The ground is flat with minimal trees, so small mammals bury underground to escape the sun and stay cool. Prairies also commonly have wildfires. Prairie plants are well adapted to live with fire due to that. Prairie fires burn intensely and quickly, fed by dry grass and prairie winds, but they burn mainly the dry stalks of the previous year's growth. Below the fire's heat, the roots of the prairie plants remain unharmed, and new stalks grow quickly, fertilized by ashes and unencumbered by accumulations of old litter. Adaptations resulting from these factors include the grass adapts to be tough and survive various climates. They bud close to the ground, and they have a narrow and upright stem. Half of their tissue is underground, and when the weather reaches 50 degrees, the grass starts to grow again. Small mammals grow coats of fur and for camouflage and warmth, and they have pouch-like cheeks for transporting more food to save up for the winter. Large mammals have multiple stomachs to digest grass. Prairie soil is very rich, fertile, and deep. It is the most fertile soil in the world. It is composed of 50% carbon, 5% nitrogen, phosphorus and sulfur make up 5 to 8%, and oxygen is present. There is also organic matter. Due to its properties, it can hold lots of water. It is ideal for plant growth conditions, and grass growth is abundant. The water holding capacity buffers against pH changes. The organic matter provides plant nutrition and microbial growth. Nutrients and ions bind in the soil. When plant roots decompose, it adds organic matter to the soil. Insects, earthworms, bacteria, and fungi decompose dead roots. Some birds, reptiles, and rodents also live in the soil. Year in a prairie. Prairies are not usually located near any large bodies of water. Therefore, they have buffered temperature swings and cause extreme cool and warm air moves up from the Gulf of Mexico winds from the desert and create dry conditions when combined with dry winter air from the north when air masses collide. Massive storms result along the fronts. The sun heats the surface of the prairie, which causes water to evaporate and condense to form rain clouds in the summer. In the winter, extreme seasons happen. The prairie experiences extreme seasons due to small buffer periods during late spring and fall. The drought conditions make nutrition hard to come by. Sudden storms make it imperative to act quickly. Evaporation exceeds precipitation, and rivers run dry. Extreme winds and blizzards can erupt and inhibit mobility, and long winters deplete food supplies. The spade-foot toad uses puddles to lay its eggs. If the puddle dries up, the tadpoles become cannibals to survive. Harvester ants store bird poo and dead insects in case of food shortage, and plants have deep root systems to reach down to the clay for water. Animals hibernate in caves and underground during the winter. They use snow as insulation. The wood frogs increase their blood glucose levels to up to 60 times the normal level to let themselves partially freeze, and the Swanson's hawk uses thermal updrafts in the autumn to save energy. Now, enough with all that boring talk. Here are some fun facts. Temperate grasslands cover about 1.8% of Earth's surface, and sadly, in about 99 years, 77% of all existing prairies will be gone. A common but foul prairie animal is a skunk. Skunk population levels are at a high right now. The population cycles are usually a 10 to 12 year period. Skunks usually mate in the spring, so that can also buffer the population level. On the conservation status, skunks fall at the least of concern. Skunks usually disperse in a clumped pattern because they prefer cultivated areas to non-cultivated areas. Skunks are polygamous animals, and they breed once a year, but with multiple partners. The mating season falls between mid-February and mid-April. It is delayed at higher latitudes. Their breeding ratio is 1 to 2. The gestation period lasts around 59 to 77 days, with kits being born at about mid-May to early June. Males breed with several females. Litters generally consist of 2 to 12 kits. Kits are born blind and sparsely furred, weighing 25 to 40 grams. Their eyes open after around 3 weeks, and they are weaned after 42 to 56 days. Although their musk is still undeveloped, kits of this age will indistinctly assume their defensive stand position when threatened. At this point, the kits may accompany their mother outside the den, becoming independent after 2.5 months. They give birth to new litters every year with the growth potential of skunks. The skunk is intermediate between the R and the K, but it swings closer to the R strategy. Skunks have large litters and have a strong sex drive, which would put them on the R spectrum, but then in fact they are strong and well protected, which would also put them on the K spectrum. Density dependent factors of a skunk are that they already eat dead animals, worms, but primarily plants. They are scavengers, which mean they consume animals' prey remains. They are also solitary animals. The density-independent factors include that they cannot survive in extreme heat or cold, and they need to be easily accessible to water. Skunks have asomatic coloration, which is why they have black and white stripes to warn predators to stay away from them. If a skunk feels threatened, it lets out a foul spray from its anus onto its attacker. Skunks usually do not interact with other species, but they compete for food. They rely on other organisms to supply it with the food that it scavenges. They live in temperate biomes, open areas, and along forest borders, bushy areas, and open grassy fields broken by wooded ravines and rock formations. Do live together in dens during the winter, and then come together for mating season. During mating season, females raise the young, while males sometimes supply the food for the young. Skunks can be found almost anywhere in North America besides Mexico and northern Canada. Now let's talk about community interactions. The common burdock has a spiky protective shell covering the seed. It latches onto animals' fur and is dispersed about the environment that way. It relies on other organisms for seed dispersion. Animals don't try to eat them because of their rough, spiky outer shell. That way, it has a morphological defense mechanism. Milkweed plants use a chemical defense mechanism. When punctured, the leaves release a milky, white-looking syrup that is foul and bitter-tasting to organisms. The only animal that really eats this plant is the monarch caterpillar. It eats it so that it becomes poisonous so that birds don't eat them. An example of asomatic coloration is the monarch caterpillar. Monarch caterpillars are very poisonous, and they warn other animals of this with their yellow, black, and white stripes. The common moth has cryptic coloration. It blends into the wood of trees, and it camouflages itself from predators. The distasteful Viceroy butterfly uses Mullerian mimicry to mimic the poisonous monarch butterfly by looking almost identical. Both species evolved to resemble each other. The ladybug possesses noxious chemicals, which wreak havoc on taste buds when consumed. The red lady mimic spider evolved to resemble a ladybug to confuse its predators. This is an example of Batesian mimicry. That is where a species imitates the warning signals to get the protection with the perceived foul taste. An unexpected example of mutualism is pollination. They are both living organisms, just from different kingdoms. One is plants and one is animals. The animals use their pollen and then they pollinate other plants to keep the ecosystem going. An example of this is hummingbirds, bees, and butterflies, and they all pollinate flowers. An example of commensalism is the white barn owl and the gray squirrel live in nooks of oak trees. The owl benefits from the tree by getting shelter, but it does not harm the tree. An example of parasitism is ticks and mosquitoes. One of the parasite organisms derives the nutrients from another, causing harm to the host. In this case, they suck the blood from their host. The grassland pyramid starts with producers like trees, grass, and other plants, and those are at the bottom of the pyramid. The primary consumers include mice and small rodents, and the secondary consumers are animals like coyotes, cougars, etc. And those are at the top of the pyramid. The end.